growing speculations that Caitlin Clark wants out of Indiana by any means necessary. This is the word on the street. Fever insiders are allegedly leaking information that Connor is no longer at Butler. And Butler is definitely stunned that he basically resigned allegedly from his position. There is growing notion that Caitlin Clark is not about to sign that epic deal, the same deal that Aaliyah Boston signed this season.
The room was suffocatingly silent. Stephanie White stood there, eyes wide, as the revelation struck her like a freight train. Caitlin Clark did not simply hesitate. She flatly rejected the historic agreement that was supposed to safeguard the Indiana Fever's destiny for the next decade. This was more than just a failed contract deal. It was a full-fledged declaration of independence. The face of the franchise is making moves that no one in the front office expected, and the shockwaves are currently reverberating across the organization. This is the moment the league changed forever, and the consequences are only beginning.
Caitlin Clark is not about to sign that epic deal, the same deal that Aaliyah Boston signed this season. Now, it is like, I feel like everybody forgot that the Indiana Fever offered Caitlin Clark that epic deal. And after she got offered that epic deal, we have not heard anything else about it. Now, we all remember when Caitlin Clark was on the Aaliyah Boston podcast, she said, you're here through 2029. Let's go back to that before I get into this groundbreaking story that I'm about to show y'all.
Everyone assumed the extension was a done deal. After all, Aaliyah Boston had already signed her big contract, and it was expected that Caitlin would follow suit right away. However, weeks have passed since that offer was made, and the Clark camp has said nothing. Insiders are now leaking that the Fever front office is in complete panic because their hero is being non-committal. They thought they had her locked up until 2029, but Caitlin seemed to be playing a whole different game than they had intended.
Any of that stuff happened. It's no secret that Caitlin Clark do not like playing off ball. Caitlin Clark had hinted in press conferences and videos that, hey, I'm going to be on the ball. I'm going to have the ball. We even heard Stephanie White say that Caitlin Clark is the first option. If Caitlin Clark is the first option, why is you taking her out the game in the first quarter? Her and Aaliyah Boston. You ran the pick and roll like 2-3 times, and whenever you ran it, it worked.
The first significant break in the armor surfaced during an apparently benign discussion on Aaliyah Boston's podcast on long-term staying power. Aaliyah had complete confidence in being signed through 2029, but Caitlin's response was a chilly shower for Fever fans. She shrugged her shoulders and reminded everyone that her contract only runs until next year. Her expression did not reflect a player looking forward to a long-term future in Indianapolis. It was the expression of someone counting down the days until they had the ability to shape their own future. And it was captured on film.
Right now. Because church is in session right now, guys. Somebody sent me this last night. Oh, yes, they did. Oh, yes, they did. And when I show you guys this, you guys are going to be like, what the hell, John? This right here, and I'm about to read this. It said, on a conversation I had a bit ago, enjoy the ride, everyone. This states, I got a phone call from a friend on May the 18th who works.
This was not a simple slip of the tongue. It was a deliberate reminder of her power. This audio was recorded before the most recent round of coaching turmoil and before the tension with Stephanie White reached a breaking point. If Caitlin was already feeling distant back then, imagine where her mind is now after the recent on-court frustrations. She isn't just a newbie taking orders. She is a global icon who understands her value. By refusing to sign that huge deal right now, she sends a message to the front office that her allegiance cannot be bought with a conventional contract.
This right here, and I'm about to read this. It said, on a conversation I had a bit ago, enjoy the ride, everyone. This states, I got a phone call from a friend on May the 18th who works close with the Indiana Fever front office in Cambridge. He said there were difficulties surrounding Caitlin Clark's future Epic contract extension. A lot of concerns within the front office that Caitlin will not sign it, as she has been non-committal on the issue so far. Concern further built as her boyfriend...
The friction on the court is becoming impossible to ignore, and it all begins with the coaching strategy. Stephanie White has officially said that Caitlin Clark is the first choice, yet her actions during the games reveal a very different narrative. Why is the world's most electric player being removed from the game in the first quarter? Why is she compelled to play off ball when everyone knows she is most dangerous with the rock in her hands? The disparity between the coaching staff's comments and their rotations is creating a chasm that may be too great to overcome at this time.
On the issue so far. Concern further built as her boyfriend left his job in Indianapolis and has yet to look for jobs in the area at all. Butler's staff was confused by his departure. From what I know, it doesn't seem like he has problems with the players or coaching staff. No definitive answer on whether it's the president or general manager, but the problem for her is the front office. Something was said that damaged the relationship. Assigning her to, again, he didn't expect her to.
The play calling makes things even more unclear. Early on, the Indiana Fever used a pick and roll that was extremely effective. It was so effective that even role players like Sophie Cunningham were getting wide open looks and making three-pointers with ease. However, Stephanie White completely removed that from the equation. It's as if they found the kingdom's keys and then threw them away. Caitlin has hinted throughout press appearances that she wants the ball. However, it appears that the system is structured to minimize her impact rather than increase it.
President or general manager, but the problem for her is the front office. Something was said that damaged the relationship. Assigning her to, again, he didn't expect her to ask out, but the relationship is growing shockingly cold and strange. Now, I want you guys to listen to this. Now, I can't put a stamp that this is facts. We have to go with allege for legal purposes. But if this is true, my goodness, it's all I can.
Now, a big leak from a Fever insider has revealed what truly goes on behind the scenes at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. According to a front office insider, Caitlin's future contract renewal is fraught with challenges. According to the article, Caitlin's relationship with management has deteriorated to an unsettling degree. It is no longer only about money or playing time. It is about a fundamental breach in trust. Something was said or done that harmed the connection, and the front office is scrambling to repair a bridge that has already burnt.
Wow. Wow, this is epic. This is epic. Because this is a strong indicator that this right here might have some merit to it. I just want to let this marinate for a second. Now, this is all alleged. But boy, oh boy, if this is true,
However, the most telling sign that Caitlin is preparing her escape does not take place on the basketball court. It features her lover, Connor McCaffrey, and his abrupt resignation from his Butler coaching post. The revelation sent shockwaves through the Indianapolis sports world because no one anticipated it coming. Connor was a rising talent on the staff who helped the Bulldogs achieve tremendous success. Nonetheless, he resigned, purportedly without a backup plan. The Butler staff is allegedly astonished and perplexed by his leaving, as there were no problems with his performance or the personnel. When you connect the dots, the image becomes clearer. Connor isn't just leaving his work, he's also clearing his schedule. Insiders say He hasn't even looked for other positions in the Indianapolis region. If your partner is the face of a city's professional team, you don't merely leave your local job unless you both understand that your time in that city is up. This is a clear indication that the Clark camp is planning a move. According to sources close to the matter, the relationship with the Fever front office has become so bad that a departure is practically certain. Caitlin Clark is said to be desperate to leave Indiana. While she isn't asking for a trade right now, her unwillingness to sign that huge deal means she'll be a free agency in 2028. She wants to remake her own history by having complete control over where and who she plays for. The Indiana Fever believed they were getting a franchise savior they could manage, but they discovered too late that they were dealing with a player with greater influence than the organization. The power dynamic has shifted entirely. The conflict isn't limited to Caitlin and the front office. It's also dividing the fan base. You have diehard Indiana Fever fans who want the best for their team. There are also Caitlin Clark fans that are particularly interested in her. These two groups have quite different priorities. The Fever fans are concerned about the roster, while Clark followers are demanding coaching changes and a complete reworking of the system. This internal struggle is putting further pressure on Stephanie White to generate results. However, her decisions are just exacerbating the situation. If the rumors are correct, something particular occurred in the front office that served as the impetus for this frigid and odd relationship. There wasn't simply one awful game or missed play. It was a moment when the WNBA's business side clashed with Caitlin Clark's personal branding. For legal reasons, many people are keeping the specifics hidden. However, people who say no frequently use the phrase "destroy the relationship." Once that trust is lost at the professional level, it is extremely tough to regain, particularly with a player of her quality. To comprehend the depth of this predicament, we must first consider the timing. If Caitlin refuses to commit to the deal, the Fever will be left with its biggest star in limbo. Every game, substitution, and news conference will be examined for indications of her departure. Stephanie White is now coaching in a high-pressure environment, where any mistake could be the last straw that sends Caitlin home. The extraordinary offer that was rejected was more than just a contract. It was the Fever's final attempt to retain stability, and it failed. The technique for getting Caitlin off the ball is possibly the most perplexing aspect of this entire tale. We've seen her erupt when given the opportunity to create, but the present system appears to prefer a balanced attack, which frequently leaves her standing in the corner. For a player who grew up with the ball in her hands and altered the college game with her vision, this must be heartbreaking. It's no surprise that the relationship with the coaching staff is deteriorating. You do not buy a Ferrari and then attempt to drive it like a minivan. But this is exactly what is happening with Indy. Let's revisit the pick and roll, as that is the smoking gun of this coaching disaster. When Caitlin and Aaliyah Boston run the play, it is nearly impossible to defend. It creates gravity, which frees up the entire floor for everyone else. However, as the season develops, we see less of it. Is this a directive from the front office? Is Stephanie White attempting to prove that she can win her own way? Whatever the cause, Caitlin is plainly frustrated to the point that she sees no long-term future with this particular coaching style or management team. The resignation of Connor McCaffrey from Butler is the anchor that makes all of these rumors seem real. Butler is a great program, and leaving a solid assistant coaching position is not an easy decision. If he stayed in Indiana, he would have no need to leave so abruptly. The fact that the Butler staff was caught off guard shows that this was a personal decision made in private, most likely over dinner with Caitlin. They are a team, and if the team is shifting, the parts must begin moving now to prepare for the inevitable change. If Caitlin Clark becomes a free agency in 2028, the WNBA landscape will be turned upside down. Teams will clear cap space years in advance only to be able to pitch her. She understands this. Her teammates are aware of this. By rejecting the Fever's offer now, she keeps her options open for the most expensive bidding war in sports. Stephanie White may be shocked, but everyone who has followed Caitlin's career knows she is constantly 3 steps ahead of everyone else on the court. It turns out she's also 3 steps ahead in front office negotiations. There is a growing belief that the environment in Indianapolis has become toxic for the rising star. With the media attention, coaching changes, and front office intrigue, the fun of the game appears to be diminishing. Her body language during the games reflects this. The fire is still present, but it is frequently directed at the bench or the officials in annoyance rather than the opponent in joy. When the excitement wears off and dealing with the people in charge becomes a bother, a player of her caliber will seek out the nearest exit sign. The Indiana Fever's front management believed they could handle her like any other rookie. But Caitlin Clark is a once-in-a-generation phenomenon. She has her own sponsors, a big fan base, and a clear aim for her future. If that vision does not connect with the Fever's process, she will not remain just out of obligation. The historic deal's refusal marked the first serious shot in what is quickly becoming a very public war for control of her career. Stephanie White is currently trapped in the middle of a war that she may not be able to win. We must also consider the influence on the rest of the team if the players see conflict between their star and management. It influences chemistry. Aaliyah Boston is serving a long sentence, but how does she feel knowing her accomplice in crime is already searching for an exit? Gamebridge's locker room is probably somewhat confusing right now. When an insider reveals that the connection is surprisingly frigid, you know something's wrong. It takes a lot for a professional organization to allow things to get that terrible. And now they're suffering the price. What happens next will be a crazy ride for everyone concerned. The Fever will undoubtedly try to rescue face by releasing statements about how much they respect Caitlin and how they are working on a long-term solution. However, the damage is likely already done. You can't unreject a huge deal without making significant adjustments to the leadership structure. If Stephanie White wants to keep her star, she may have to change her entire coaching style, or the front office may have to choose between the coach and the athlete who generates the most income. When it rains, it pours in Indianapolis. Fans are beginning to realize that the ideal of a decade-long dynasty may be fading before their eyes. The rumors are no longer mere whispers on the street. They are supported by real-world events such as Connor's resignation and Caitlin's statements on television. Caitlin Clark is in charge of everything in the front office, which is located in a corner. She is changing the rules of the WNBA by demonstrating that no offer is too big to refuse if it does not feel right for her future and legacy. This is a pivotal moment for the league. We are seeing a player take absolute control of her narrative, refusing to be a pawn in a franchise's rebuilding plan. Stephanie White's disbelief reflects an old-school perspective seeing a new-school superstar. Caitlin Clark is informing the world that she is the one in command. Whether she stays in Indiana until 2028 or finds an exit sooner, she has already altered the game. Keep your eyes open and your ears to the streets, because the next move in this chess battle will be legendary, and the city of Indianapolis will never be the same.